of staging such an event with a huge amount of media scrutiny now in the world of table tennis. And here he is, 27 years of age, Eugene, well at number 3, and he is very, very battle-hardened with regard to grinding out tough results, getting towards the business end of championships such as prestigious as this. So the 2016 Latin American Cup champion is still very much work in progress at the age of 20. There's still bits and pieces with regards to him flourishing as a player and showing us exactly what he's all about in his career, but he's got a very, very good base to work on there as the Brazilian. But over there in the main hall here, so different from plying your trade in the other halls, and let's see if he can rise to the challenge here and cause what would be a very, very big upset here in this match. Need to be positive here. He'll need to keep those shoulders nice and loose here, Calderano. Yeah, he's missed, but that's a good miss because he looked to go for it. Oh, went for it. Opened up the table there to the Brazilian. Just needed slightly better control on that backhand. Slightly loose on that. Got to stay touch tight with the high-ranked players very early here in a match of this magnitude. Just looking to whip and get over that ball. Just needed better wrist work on that occasion, though. It's clear to see in the early exchanges here in this first game, he really has got to work on the Brazilian's backhand side. Going down the middle of the table as well here is Zhu. You can see that spells danger for any opponent when he's given time on his forehand side. Good work this time. Managed to push you a good distance back behind the table. So it's Calderano here who really has reacted very, very well from being down here. He's given himself a big chance here. Okay, it's only 2 points, but he's been very, very solid. He's been tight. Giving too many points away here to Zhu of China. And again there, he's forcing the Chinese player to work. He's lost that point, but he was positive. Got to try and get his forehand working well here. Calderano, if he has any chance, a slight chance it may be, of causing a big upset here today. And there is that forehand right on cue. It could come down to small margins for him. Didn't miss the table there by much. I have to say I've been very, very impressed here by his exports in this first game here, the Brazilian. He's used his legs well, his movement has been sharp. He's trying to play closer to the table. Okay, he's nudged ahead again at 8-7. Very tight, tense opening game this, and it's exactly what Hugo Calderano wants. Allowing Zhu to run away with things and have things go all his own way. I'm pleased to say that now Michael Anderson has joined me in the technical area, in the commentary area, I should say, for what is a very, very tight opening game here between Zhu and Hugo Calderano of Brazil. Now, on paper, this would have been probably tasked with a very, very easy day, a very easy rider for the Chinese, but it's been anything but here. 9 points each. More importantly, though, Zhu has the serve. So, welcome here, Michael. Glad to have you here.
Thank you.
Seen a few unforced errors so far in this opening game from Zhu, and that's uncharacteristic for him, but you have to give credit to Hugo Calderano, who's been very tight, relatively unforced error free, and he's been very, very positive. He's got his forehand working well, and here we are in a very, very healthy situation. Game point here.
What an exciting player he is, Hugo Calderano. Really the most, in my opinion, the most interesting player on the men's side out there for the moment. Fantastic opening game so far. And he's exactly where he wants to be, servicing now.
What a brilliant point that was.
Yeah, he's such a good in the mid-range game also, Calderano, but now he's up against Shu and had the opportunity there, maybe forced that a little bit to his forehand. Thinking is perfect, but just overplayed it.
Well, the pendulum has now swung in favour of the Chinese player. He had to save a game point. Now he's forged out one for himself. But more importantly, it's on his terms and it's on his serve. Oh, would you believe it? If you're afforded an opportunity, a game point against a player of the quality of Zhu Jin, boy, you have to take it. A Brazilian didn't it? And with that, it's Zhu Jin who has the first game done and dusted.
So tactically brilliant, of course. Side overspin to Hugo's forehand. Couldn't control it, just a little bit too high. And then it's game over against this guy. No, and then using the pen holder grip, which makes it very difficult to...
It's a hashtag Ask a Commentator, and you can join in by doing so if you join the conversation at hashtag ITTF Worlds 2017. Got a wealth of knowledge and a wealth of experience to my right-hand side here with Mr. Michael Anderson. Ask him a question, and I'm pretty sure he'll give you a very good answer to that question as well.
I will give an answer, whether it's a good answer or not.
Oh, I believe it will be. Having worked with you for a couple of days, I'm pretty sure it will be. So yeah, if not by that, also you can join in the fun as well by the Twitter site, of course, at Scan and at ITTF World as well.
Good service by Hugo Calderano, who has a tendency sometimes to maybe serve too easy, I would say, or too easy to read, but I also seen him improve a lot on his service, so that was an interesting down the line side underspin serve. What a patient backhand opening against Yusin, who backs off the table a little bit. Sometimes it's a much better option to do a slow backhand with a better placement and just drive it right into his racket. Fantastic drive, so deep into the forehand corner of Shushin. Look at this here. What a nice angle on that one. A lot of body power behind, a lot of wrist action, of course.
Oh, exactly, and the footwork as well to get himself into that position. So sharp there from the Brazilian. Enjoyed watching that point. It's a decent crowd here this afternoon to witness plenty of table tennis. Day 5 in Düsseldorf. Over on table number 1. Timo Boll in action as well, hence the reason why many of the seats have been occupied here. There were not many tickets left at the start of play here today, day 5, but I've been reliably informed that the final 3 days here are sold out. All adds to the spice, it all adds to the atmosphere here at the proceedings. And the players pick up on that energy, dished out by the crowd as well. So it's the Brazilian here who started very well in this game. Oh, his backhand is a thing of beauty, isn't it?
It's very effective shot because it's a strong, deep backhand flick over the table or backhand topspin almost. And he's so athletic getting into that, and I like the way how he's moving into the serves and trying to, as we said yesterday, a little bit about working on his return all the time. Getting a lead, 7-2. I mean, we talked about the level, and you know, Hugo is now a seasoned competitor already at a young age, played well in the Olympics, as we know, and making his home here in Germany now, playing for Lieber Ochsenhausen, training hard. With a lot of professional backing, I would say. So it's a player in steep progress for the moment. Crucial moment now. That was a good, very good, and that's an excellent, you know, drive back from Shushin. He's just reaching out with his long arms and kicking the ball back with tremendous spin.
Well, we've been here before. Cast your mind back very shortly ago when Hugo Calderano had a good situation in the First game as well, he had a game point that disappeared before Zhu Jin came fighting back, and Chinese looking to fight back here as well. Just 2 points of deficit. And again, as we all know, when you're up against a Chinese player, every point you have to be absolutely on the money. Every single point.
That's such a pressure point too, because you know that they will come back. You don't get anything for free, and that just adds pressure. You have to play with such a quality on each single point, and that takes some time to get used to that. But let's hope that Hugo can keep himself composed and focused and find solutions.
Well, he's finding those solutions right now, and bit by bit he's putting another piece very, very carefully into the puzzle here. I'm very impressed of how he's gone about business here. Yes, he's just 20, but as you said already, even at such a young age, he's built up a resume, hasn't he?
Absolutely, one of the hottest players in the world for the moment, I would say.
Taking his time over this next serve here, the Brazilian. The crowd again just raising the decibel level over on table number 1.
Maybe overplayed that just a little bit. I mean, he has a tendency and he wants to have that backhand opening, which is so effective because he can play it all over the table. Now, at that point, he was all the way over to deep forehand to play a backhand, and of course, you open up the table. That's the risk. You have to manage, you have to balance a forehand attack with a backhand attack. Oh, excellent return. And as we see that the work in progress, it goes into the ball. It took with strong touch, body support behind, footwork going already.
Oh, well played. Just one game point needed there for Hugo Calderano of Brazil to square off proceedings here in this men's singles round 3 encounter. And from what we've seen so far, taking the game to his more illustrious opponent.
I'm very impressed. I think just that footwork there and always be aware of what's coming, and just the action in your returns gives you a few options. See, moving, very athletic. Catching a long serve like that is not easy. With a perfect long serve to the middle and so on. So he's aware there. He's working all the time, and that's exactly the kind of attitude is something that I find interesting.
Well, he has shown a very, very good attitude. He doesn't seem to get too down on himself as well when the chips are down. If he loses a couple of points, he just seems to reset very quickly, and then so it's under some duress here right now, Zhu Jin. Slightly looking anguished there at the end of that first game, so a chance to start all over again. You see there as well, he's moving around, but write him off at your peril. So Hugo Calderano looking very, very good so far in this match. One game apiece. Is he a player in your mind who enjoys playing against left-handed players?
It depends how they take a service, but I think in general it looks like Hugo has a few more weapons now with his serve, meaning that he can play with more variation, and he can also score on his serve directly. Before, I thought that was an easy. Most top players control his serve as well and sort of negotiated his backhand attack. But as the service has been more and more sharp, he's sort of putting himself in positions to attack with backhand, and it looks good so far, although down a few points here.
Not afraid to go down the middle either.
And that's the good thing with his backhand. He can easily go down the line hard. He can. That one down the line is he caught him with big surprise. So it's not easy to see the backhand. It's a good drive out to Zhu Jin's forehand as well. just nod, because that was good thinking. You know, don't overplay it, and it's very mature decision in terms of trying to play a slower ball. And you can see Shushin's respect also. He's kind of falling away, way behind the table for the moment.
He's keeping Zhu Jin away from the table as well. He's doing it. Lots of noise inside the Messe Arena now, and the reason for that again is, just to reiterate, we do have a German player in action over on table number 1. Mr. Timo Boll is in the house, and it's a difficult situation for the players over on table number 2 as well. Just as they're about to serve, the crowd just makes so much noise here.
For sure, it's not easy at all to play with such a big supportive crowd looking at Timo's table.
So the extra experience here just beginning to tell here in the start of game number 3. It's been very watertight so far. Zhu Jin just untidy patches of play from both players there, and unforced error. I've seen a few here from Calderano as well.
Maybe a few forehand flicks down to Shushin's backhand side. Shushin's been ready there, already around the corner with forehand. A little too easy perhaps, so that's you know what we're seeing here, a couple of too soft returns or forehand flicks down to Shushin, who then can pick his corner or pick middle in his attack. So
well, he has been very neat and tidy so far up until this game here. Hugo Calderano, he's stuck with Zhu Jin. He's been ahead for both games, in fact, despite the fact he dropped the first game. So this is the first time where he's had to really fight hard to reduce the arrears, and he's done that now to 3 points.
And I kind of like him to get in with his forehand also sometimes, because it's a kind of different stroke, of course, but that's nice. And then over the table there with forehand is important for him, because otherwise Shushin will sort of read his backhand attacks as the match progresses.
Oh, well played. Too easy though with that serve, really, on the surface of things.
Maybe not the best quality from Shushin. He read it very quickly and was perfect. That came in the perfect angle to use his backhand as a killer.
Well, in that situation against any opponent, Zhu Jin, when he winds up that forehand, it means only one thing: danger.
That's a perfect placement, of course, to the middle. And remember also that coaching from the other side is effective. We see Wang Hao in the corner, former, of course, world-class player.
Well, there has been a steely determination about Zhu Jin here in game number 3. That determination is about to see the Chinese bear the fruits of his labour. 5 game points. Make that 4. certainly won't want to be pushed around by a young up-and-coming table tennis player, someone who has more experience. Well, just off the edge of the table, and with that, it's been an excellent response here from Zhu Jin of China, putting Hugo Calderano well and truly in his place, taking game number 3 by some distance in the end, 11 points. It is a bank holiday week, quality table tennis. That's exactly what we expected to see. The cream of the crop all descended here to Düsseldorf a good week ago. Some players have been here even 10 days now. And slowly but surely now we're getting to the business end of the tournament where the players will have a chance to have their bragging rights. So it's Zhu Jin at the moment who slightly has the bragging rights. 2 games to 1 up. Weather conditions outside are brilliant. We throw all of those ingredients into the melting pot. Makes for a wonderful spectacle here in and around the Messe Arena.
We also see a tendency now, Zhu Jin changing up his serves and getting more opportunities to get in there with his first attack. And this is now the danger zone for Calderano, not being able to keep finding solutions on Zhu Jin's serving placement and the consistency in his returning. I think for him it's a question of about really hanging in there now and really working also to try to find that solutions all the time. Trouble for him now for almost the previous game, and now when he flicks the ball down to Zhu Jin's backhand corner, and he is there, he's already there and placed it to the middle. And I would count 3, 4, 5 points already from that kind of playing sequence.
Zhu Jin has his opponent exactly where he wants him right now, on the ropes. Well, it's a slice of luck there from the Brazilian, but it's the slice of luck that he'll grab with both hands at 0-5 down in that rally.
You see the variation also now. He's playing, he's kind of luring him in to play short, and then this one was a quick push to the middle, and you see those variations coming into Zhu Jin's game. And of course he feels more confident now. He's sort of read his game. Haven't played Hugo Calderano, as far as I know, too many times, maybe possible a few times, but we can check that. But anyway, it takes up some time for Chinese player to read in and his coaches to get all the tactics in order too.
Just beginning to come out on top now in these rallies, Zhu Jin. As he said, you're quite right to touch upon the fact that it's taken him a good couple of games just to work out his opponent now. Getting a better read on the serve, I believe, at the moment as well.
Absolutely, and they are constantly finding Hugo deep, short forehand. And that's his weak spot, so you see the tactical brilliance as well. That's exactly where he's stuck with trouble. What does he do? Short first time, then very often a flick. And this is exactly now where Zhu Jin is scoring almost all the time. So people forget that. You have the technical playing skills and all that, but then comes the tactics and all this ability to go back to your coach, listen, and execute tactics, which is something also such a high quality with these kind of players.
Well, again, it's another game that Zhu Jin now has really flexed his muscles here. It's a badly needed point that for Hugo Calderano. Well, it's all looking very academic here in the fourth game because Zhu Jin, well, he has a very healthy position, 6 points to margin, and any Chinese player, once they find themselves in this situation, like any good hunter, when they get the scent of blood under their nostrils, well, they go ahead and get the meat. And he's been clinical, so clinical. He hasn't given the Brazilian anything. He's raced off very quickly here to 7 game points. Well, there it is, brilliantly struck down, that devilish forehand from Zhu Jin. One-way traffic completely and utterly here in the fourth game. The Chinese player Zhu Jin completely bossing the scoreboard.
他没有说像人家那种有的拉不快的，你感觉有点难受。他全是身后，他老想抽或者老想他这种去兜一下的。反正你拉他正手的时候，他这块有边捧来有边快带，对吧？拉到拐住可以，拐住完之后他一撅，你发这边一拉就可以了。我现在发球发的挺好，这没抽你几个吗？你这都没那么抽你啊，对吧？所以说不要过多的说担心他这个，对吧？就把落点拉开，尽量的还是按正常现在这么打就行。人一定要提醒自己集中力啊，等等啊，非常好。
So it was complete history to see now exactly what he does now to try and stop the right there, Hugo Calderano, because once you give a Chinese player a rhythm, once you give them a flow, well, they just control the flow of that traffic on the table to devastating effect.
I just derailed a little bit tactically, I would say. Hugo Calderano, Zhu Jin just grasping that perfect tactics, finding Hugo short forehand, as we say in table tennis, with everything, with service, returns, and that's his weak spot. So, and Hugo's been a little stuck, maybe flicking diagonal down to Zhu Jin's backhand side, where he's been already ready to attack with the forehand.
Unfortunately here, it's Zhu Jin who's winning these bigger points now.
Huge counter-attack. I hardly saw it hit the table.
Exactly, it was a great pace, wasn't it? Well, he's on a roll now, Zhu Jin, and he's keeping his foot firmly placed down on the accelerator here, just picking up from where he left off at the conclusion of the fourth game.
That was a better quality. He has relaxed a little in his returning and was more aggressive again. So he has a tendency now, a few games also, to put a lot of short back, and then Zhu Jin comes in very quickly, controlling that play. And maybe that's a good thing. I would like perhaps to suggest that he should also find Zhu Jin deep forehand, although that's a risky shot. You have to go there sometimes.
Is that what it has to be now for Hugo Calderano? Just higher margins and higher risk, perhaps?
In a way, yes, but you have to show tactically that you're aware and also play deep forehand. Maybe that forehand flick goes down the line instead a few times. Instead of finding that exactly that playing sequence, he struggled all the time now. So they most likely have to change that, although it's a risky shot to go that point there. Instead of going cross, you can go down the line, and maybe Zhu Jin will be there. Maybe he will punish you with a forehand, but at least you show him that sort of there's an element of surprise.
Well, the magnitude of the situation has seen Brazil now call a timeout, so no surprises there whatsoever.
No, it's he's like on a cliff now, hanging on. Coaching matchup also for Hugo, working with Jean Moret from France as his private coach, set up a few years back with the Brazilian Association, and now more independently working with Jean Moret.
Well, down and out, nothing to lose. Scoreboard pressure perhaps could play a part here, though, with regards to Hugo Calderano. He's had the timeout. He's had a chance just to breathe and go again.
Yeah, and as a young player, normally you want those open rallies like in the beginning, and that's the good game for you. But as he matures as a player, of course, you have to get into that service return kind of game and feel being proud, understanding that more. That's so important to control that part of the game too. A lot of young players like the open rallies, of course, you play, showcase your skill and all that. Tactics elements and service return, the right placement is also 1 point worth. And there's where he's picking his points now.
Exactly. I mean, we saw him represent Brazil at the Rio Olympics, 2020 in Tokyo. Do you expect to see him throw his name in the hat potentially to get close to a medal?
In order to do that, I think that he should at least expose himself to Asian players a lot more, which goes both ways.
To the Chinese Super League, perhaps.
Yeah, perhaps. And I think you go there and you play. Of course, your opponent is also learning your style of play and so on. So it always comes back to whether you have a solid setup for training and developing your game. And right now he's in one of the best spots in Europe in Lieberhausenhausen, training every day, a bunch of young players in his own age. So he's got the best European setup that he can get. Now, if you can add then Asia as a Asian players somehow to train against, then of course it will help him.
Well, that backhand just gave us an indication of what a wonderful stroke maker that he is. Lovely control with that. One side of the table to the other, coast to coast, side to side, you could say. Such an advantage for the Chinese players coming into an arena such as vast as this. They're so battle-hardened. We're playing tight matches in the Chinese Super League in front of big crowds as well.
But I like that return. You saw it caught Susin with surprise. He has to reach in, and it was a little bit of a mistake by Hugo on the next ball, but very well played, and he needs to go there.
Well, he was committing unforced errors on that forehand, Zhu Jin, in the first game. Well, his range locked down, dialed in with it now.
How to tell such a process for a player like Hugo Calderano to play Zhu Jin, you know. It's tough mentally also to try to find solutions, and maybe your tactical awareness is not 100% yet, but it's much better than we saw him before. So it's sort of a work in progress, and you have to understand that, not get down on yourself or lose concentration.
Great hands and a beautiful change-up that was from Zhu Jin. What variety there in that last point from him. He's got the confidence of the scoreboard to kind of change and mix up the play with that now. Couple of points now from the next round. There it is. Forcing the mistake there from Hugo Calderano. He's had some turbulence to come through, has Zhu Jin. That turbulence has disappeared now, and here he is looking every inch the player we know that he is, with 6 match points. So safe as houses and safely into the next round. Zhu Jin of China lives to fight another day. Over and out it is for Hugo Calderano of Brazil. The Brazilian started well in the first couple of games. After that, it was Zhu Jin all the way who showed us perhaps he could get himself a medal here this week, Michael.
perhaps, and he'll take a lot of positive things out of this match, because look at the eyes of Shushin in the end, recognizing Hugo's performance. And I think, always knowing that the Chinese, they want a good fight. They're not want players on the other side not coming there to compete with them. They're really looking for that, and what a nice moment there to see an experienced world-class player recognized.
As well as Michael Anderson from table of staging such an event with a huge amount of media scrutiny now in the world of table tennis. And here he is, 27 years of age, Eugene, well at number 3, and he is very, very battle-hardened with regard to grinding out tough results, getting towards the business end of championships such as prestigious as this. So the 2016 Latin American Cup champion is still very much work in progress at the age of 20. There's still bits and pieces with regards to him flourishing as a player and showing us exactly what he's all about in his career, but he's got a very, very good base to work on there as the Brazilian. But over there in the main hall here, so different from plying your trade in the other halls, and let's see if he can rise to the challenge here and cause what would be a very, very big upset here in this match. Need to be positive here. He'll need to keep those shoulders nice and loose here, Calderano. Yeah, he's missed, but that's a good miss because he looked to go for it. Oh, went for it. Opened up the table there to the Brazilian. Just needed slightly better control on that backhand. Slightly loose on that. Got to stay touch tight with the high-ranked players very early here in a match of this magnitude. Just looking to whip and get over that ball. Just needed better wrist work on that occasion, though. It's clear to see in the early exchanges here in this first game, he really has got to work on the Brazilian's backhand side. Going down the middle of the table as well here is Zhu. You can see that spells danger for any opponent when he's given time on his forehand side. Good work this time. Managed to push you a good distance back behind the table. So it's Calderano here who really has reacted very, very well from being down here. He's given himself a big chance here. Okay, it's only 2 points, but he's been very, very solid. He's been tight. Giving too many points away here to Zhu of China. And again there, he's forcing the Chinese player to work. He's lost that point, but seen a few unforced errors so far in this opening game from Zhu, and that's uncharacteristic for him, but you have to give credit to Hugo Calderano, who's been very tight, relatively unforced error-free, and he's been very, very positive. He's got his forehand working well, and here we are in a very, very healthy situation. Game point here.
And what an exciting player he is, Hugo Calderano. Really the most, in my opinion, the most interesting player on the men's side out there for the moment. Fantastic opening game so far. And he's exactly where he wants to be, servicing now.
What a brilliant point that was.
Yeah, he's such a good in the mid-range game also, Calderano, but now he's up against Shu and had the opportunity there. Maybe forced that a little bit to his forehand. Thinking is perfect, but just overplayed it.
Well, the pendulum has now swung in favour of the Chinese player. He had to save a game point now. He's forged out one for himself. But more importantly, it's on his terms and it's on his serve. Oh, would you believe it? If you're afforded an opportunity, a game point against a player of the quality of Zhu, boy, you have to take it. The Brazilian didn't it. And with that, it's Zhu who has the first game done and dusted.
So tactically brilliant, of course. Side overspin to Hugo's forehand. Couldn't control it, just a little bit too high. And then it's game over against this guy. No, and then using the penholder grip, which makes it very difficult to...
It's a hashtag Ask a Commentator, and you can join in by doing so if you join the conversation at hashtag ITTF Worlds 2017. Got a wealth of knowledge and a wealth of experience to my right-hand side here with Mr. Michael Anderson. Ask him a question, and I'm pretty sure he'll give you a very good answer to that question as well.
I will give an answer, whether it's a good answer or not.
Oh, I believe it will be. Having worked with you for a couple of days, I'm pretty sure it will be. So yeah, if not by that, also you can join in the fun as well by the Twitter site, of course, @Scan. He was positive. Got to try and get his forehand working well here. Calderano, if he has any chance, a slight chance it may be, of causing a big upset here today. And there is that forehand right on cue. It could come down to small margins for him. Didn't miss the table there by much. I have to say, I've been very impressed here by his exploits in this first game here, the Brazilian. He's used his legs well, his movement has been sharp. He's trying to play closer to the table. Okay, he's nudged ahead again at 8-7. Very tight, tense opening game this, and it's exactly what Hugo Calderano wants. Allowing Zhu to run away with things and have things go all his own way. pleased to say that now Michael Anderson has joined me in the technical area, in the commentary area, I should say, for what is a very, very tight opening game here between Zhu and Hugo Calderano of Brazil. Now, on paper, this would have been probably tasked as a very, very easy day, a very easy ride for the Chinese, but it's been anything but here. 9 points each. More importantly, though, Zhu has the serve. So, welcome here, Michael. Glad to have you here.
Thank you.
And at ITTF World as well.
Good service by Hugo Calderano, who has a tendency sometimes to maybe serve too easy, I would say, or too easy to read, but I also seen him improve a lot on his service. So that was an interesting down the line side underspin serve. What a patient backhand opening against Shu Xin, who backs off the table a little bit. Sometimes it's a much better option to do a slow backhand with better placement and just drive it right into his racket. Fantastic drive, so deep into the forehand corner of Shu Xin. Look at this here. What a nice angle on that one. A lot of body power behind, a lot of wrist action, of course.
Oh, exactly, and the footwork as well to get himself into that position. So sharp there from the Brazilian. Enjoyed watching that point. It's a decent crowd here this afternoon to witness plenty of table tennis. Day 5 in Düsseldorf. Over on table number 1. Timo Boll in action as well, hence the reason why many of the seats have been occupied here. There were not many tickets left at the start of play here today, day 5, but I've been reliably informed that the final 3 days here are sold out. All adds to the spice, it all adds to the atmosphere here of proceedings. And the players pick up on that energy, dished out by the crowd as well. So it's the Brazilian here who started very well in this game. Oh, his backhand is a thing of beauty, isn't it?
It's very, very effective shot because it's a strong, deep backhand flick over the table or backhand topspin almost. And he's so athletic getting into that, and I like the way how he's moving into the serves and trying to, as we said yesterday, a little bit hard working on his return all the time. Building a lead, 7-2. I mean, we talked